Welcome inside Black and Gold, Whodats. It has been an entire month. We have made it. We've made it through October without a Saints victory. It's now 43 days since the Saints. We last saw Derek Carr doing Michael Jackson dance in the end zone in Dallas.
Oh man, remember how simple things seemed then? It was like, man, the worst thing that's going to happen this season is Clint Kubiak's going to get poached for a head coaching job.
Right. Oh, he's gone. We're losing him.
That was a realistic, fair thing that everyone was like, man, you're right. And now just everything that the train has come off the tracks.
Where did all those points go?
I think if you added up the points from the last 4 weeks, you would match what they scored in week 2. I want to say something like that. I've done the math, but it sounds right. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So this is Inside Black and Gold. We're doing this thing. I'm wearing black, and you might think, hey, he's wearing black because this is a Saints podcast. No, I'm wearing black because I'm in mourning because this season is kablooey, guys. Like, this season is shot.
Toast.
I'm going to continue to talk about it as if it's not, because I don't know how we can operate a podcast and not talk about the games. Like, I have to talk about the games in the context of what a football game is. It's the only way I can survive this season. But understand that I don't mean it when I say, like, wow, what if the Saints win this week? I have completely committed to the skid. And in my heart, I want them to lose.
I was going to say that's the real bad part now for fans. Now they're like, well, just hell, lose them all, get a better draft pick.
Yeah, I wish this team would commit to like steer into the skid. I really wish they would, because I think, I refuse to believe that you're going to look at this and say, like, yeah, we're going to run it back. I don't care how the rest of the season goes. How can you look at this and say, like, yeah, we're trending in the right direction? No. And at this point, it's like the biggest issue you're going to have is who are you going to hire into this scenario? Like, the only thing you could sell someone on at this point is like, well, you're going to have some high draft picks, man. Come enjoy them. And if you blow that, and then you fire TA anyway at the end of the season, then what are you selling somebody on? You're basically saying, you want to come in and be our sacrificial lamb for a few years while we clean this shit up? Anyway, so we're going to talk about the game. I'm not playing any clips because I am tired of hearing from all of these people on the Saints. I am tired of hearing TA say the same old stuff game after game after game. Even Alvin's honest and tells us the truth, but it's the same truth. So I don't need to hear it again. They're talking about having a players only meeting with the team leaders, and it's like, we got to fix it, blah, blah, blah. Apathy, not detail oriented. The fact of the matter is, like, this, you used to talk about Saints football and like Saints culture, and it's like a culture of winning, right? And like, winning begets winning. You win games because you understand how to win, you expect to win, and you go win. Now that culture is losing. That culture is you go into the game expecting to lose, you play like a team that should lose, and then you lose. That's what the culture of this team is right now. And that's what you saw on yesterday in California. I'm jealous of anyone who decided, hey, I'm going to skip this game and go watch Taylor Swift, because I think that would have been a much better use of your Sunday afternoon/evening. Even though, it was funny, when we came back, we landed at the airport, and it's the first time we've ever had to get taxied into the terminal because there was too much traffic at the airport for the charter flights land. And I was like, oh, that's got to be Taylor Swift related, right? Like, it's got to be Taylor's like 3 jets and whoever else is taking up all the space. But I think it was pretty kind of emblematic of this season. It's like, man, there's so many better things to do in New Orleans than watch the Saints play right now. Like, so many better things.
Tay-Tay's bringing in those high rollers on those private planes because that's what you need to afford even just standing room tickets.
Yeah. And, it's good for the Superdome because, I don't know how much money they're going to be making on these Saints games the rest of the way. But thankfully, the best thing I can say for this Saints team right now is that they don't have to go back to the Superdome for a couple more weeks because they're going to have to face Carolina. But we're going to do our typical thing. We're going to do 3 up, 3 down, studs and duds. Because, the frustrating thing about this game is, like, a lot of the stuff you've been complaining about on the defensive side of the ball, I thought they did reasonably well. Like, they stuffed the run. Like, the Chargers didn't run all over them like we thought they would. They threw.
Well, except for, RG3. Oh, I mean Justin Herbert.
Yeah, it was just that one play. Like, you can have one breakdown and it does that doesn't skew the entire result for you. They kicked. I don't think they scored on that drive. Maybe they kicked a field goal. But like,
just running free like a gazelle.
Yeah, but it was one play. It's not like he did that all day long, right? Like, the issues last year were like, man, it happens over and over and over and over again. That was one. Still, like, it was ugly. Some of these pursuit angles are terrible. That said, like, I didn't think they missed a ton of tackles. I didn't think they got run all over. It was you're not going to win games if you can't score points. Like, you could have the best defense in NFL history, and you're not going to win a lot of games if your offense puts up 6 points. Like, it's not going to happen for you.
No, we've seen this before where it's almost like you feel like right now it's back when, good old Andy was running the show too, is like you feel like the defense had to score and for you to have a chance.
This is worse than when Andy was running the show. Don't do Andy Dalton like that. Like, this is helpless. It really, I mean, like, they put Jake Haener in and he led one drive into field goal range. And I was like, wow, what's this? It is possible. But yeah, so first segment, we're going to do stock down. Second segment, we're going to do stock up. It's going to be short like the last few have been, but there were some nice things that happened. There were a couple good things that happened, so we can talk about them. And then final segment is going to be a mailbag. So throw your question, comments in the chat, and we'll get to as many as possible. But, first things first, the first stock down, and the stock has been kind of gradually falling since I was excited about it a couple weeks ago. And that's for me, that's the Rattler time. Rattler time is over. I thought it should have ended at halftime. Personally, I kind of feel like that drive right before half was like a red herring of like, for me, it was like, hey, if you can't get anything going in this first half, this game is too important. And you should probably make a change at halftime just to see what that does for you. See if that changes anything. And instead, you had that drive right before the half for the field goal. And I think maybe that kind of forced your hand to stick with Spencer a little longer. And then, 3 drives I think he had into the second half, couldn't get anything going, and you went to Jake, which made sense. I agreed with it because, leaving Spencer in there to just bang his head against the wall was not doing anything, not doing him any favors. And it's frustrating. And, I mean, I've talked about this extensively. This is not new. I don't think you should play rookie quarterbacks unless you absolutely have to. I really believe that, because I don't think I think Spencer can still develop into a starting quarterback in the NFL. He's not ready right now. And he was never ready in week 6, week 7, week 8. He is not ready to be an NFL starting quarterback. And I think, you may be able to spin this positively and say, hey, experience is experience, and you're going to look at this tape and you're going to grow from it. I think it's also reasonably possible that you've done kind of irreparable damage to this kid's confidence, and he may never come back from that. Like, we've seen that happen in the NFL. Like, who's starting Zach Wilson? And this is a 5th round pick. This isn't a 1st round pick that you're going to stick with just out of from your organization. Like, that's tough. And, I feel bad for the kid because he just got put in a situation where he was never going to succeed. And then he got benched for not succeeding. I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah. And in no way, shape, or form did anybody expect. I don't think I mean, realistically expect a 5th round draft pick to come in and be able to lead a team right now. And I thought maybe, honestly, with the influx of some of the guys coming back, especially on offense, you got a Taysom Hill, you had, Ruiz back in the mix. It still just wasn't there for him, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was cautiously optimistic
too.
I was cautiously optimistic that things would look better than they did with Taysom, with some of those guys. And I don't know, maybe over the course of a few weeks, if you got some time on task with those guys, maybe it would start to look better. It's just, and I don't put it all on Spencer. I'm not saying that Spencer was the sole catalyst for why that game didn't go well for the Saints on offense. There were mistakes, but to me, the issue that I can't look past for him was the inaccuracy, right? Like, there was way too many throws in that game that are just like, you just put this on the guy and let him run. And like the interception that got, well, I guess it wasn't overturned. It was called incomplete on the field. It was very close. I can't remember who it was on the Chargers, but the ball kind of slipped out and hit the ground. Right. Yeah, sure, Taysom should go up and catch that ball, but you're talking about a throw over the middle of the field that you're forcing your tight end, who only wears one glove, to go up over his head and make a catch that if you just put it out in front of him and let him catch it, he's running. That's a first down. Instead, it's I think it was 2nd and 20. And instead, it's, that should have been intercepted. They got lucky that it wasn't intercepted. And if he catches that, here's the thing, accuracy is important for completing passes, but it's also important for keeping your pass catchers alive. And you have Taysom Hill, a guy who has missed the last 3 weeks with a rib injury. You know what happens when you force guys to go up over their head to catch a pass fully extended in the middle of the field? They get speared in the ribs legally, not a dirty hit. That's what happens. You might, if the hit is hard enough, they might give you a defenseless player penalty. But when you throw passes like that, you are hanging your pass catcher out to dry. And I honestly think that Taysom was fortunate he didn't catch that, because he would have been laid out. Because there's no way for you to protect yourself if you have to fully extend over the middle of the field, catch that ball. So it's he didn't catch it, but it's probably because he knew if he went after that fully, he's not playing for the next 3 weeks because his rib's broken again. So, I don't know. And there was a couple more plays like that. There was a screen to Alvin Kamara that was too high. Alvin, I think, is having some trouble catching balls with that broken hand, which, sure, why? Of course he is. And then, there was at least one other throw that I was just God. Oh, there was the one in the dirt to Alvin. It's just an easy pitch and catch. He put it on the dirt in front of Alvin, who almost saved it. It got overturned on review.
Right.
But those are the things that's I can, you're going to expect a young quarterback to maybe be a little slow in his reads. Maybe things are going a little fast around. Maybe he's not setting the protection right. Maybe he's not IDing the rush perfectly. He needs to be able to throw the ball on target. The thing we hear about Spencer is he's got the golden arm, right? He's got a special arm. Well, if you're not putting the ball where it needs to go, then the arm isn't helping you. And you're just, all you have is a rookie who looks a little overwhelmed out there. So to me, that is the issue that I can't look past for Spencer in these games, and why I felt like when you went to Jake, it got better, because he was at least putting the ball on target, right? He was giving guys opportunities to catch and run. They weren't just having to rescue the ball. And I don't know, again, we're talking about a rookie, and I don't want to be too hard on a rookie because he's playing like a rookie.
The only thing that is amusing, obviously, sorry to say, but the Rattler den is really quiet.
This is what I was trying to warn people about. I like Spencer. I do think Spencer has a chance to develop into a starting quarterback. He is not ready right now, and he was never going to be ready as a rookie. And this idea, and honestly, there's a lot of people out there who were freaking convinced that Derek Carr was the sole issue on this offense. He was holding them back. He's the reason,
right,
that they are not winning games at a high level. And, I don't think he wanted to miss these games. I don't think the Saints wanted him to miss these games. But what these games showed you is the baseline level of this offense without a quarterback who's going to go in there and mask some of these. What these games showed you is Derek Carr was covering up for a lot, and he was fixing a lot of these problems. And when you when you remove him and replace him with someone who's not going to kind of fix those problems and not going to overcome them and has to succeed through them, we've seen the result. So I don't know. I think we all deserve, anyone who's been giving Derek Carr relentless shit could probably look back at what has happened in these games and been like, you know what, maybe I was a little overly critical of some of his performances. Because so in week 7 against the Broncos, you could say hey, that wasn't even not Derek wasn't playing with that level of the Saints with all the offensive linemen out, no Taysom Hill, no Chris Olave or Rashid Shaheed. But this game, this is the type of offense that Derek had been playing with. And you should be able to succeed with that type of offense. I think if Derek's there, that's a competitive football game. And this wasn't that. So
let's hope he's back this week, because I don't care who the hell it is. It's 1-7 Carolina, but man, I mean, I know we kind of hinted at it in the beginning of, you embrace the tank at this point, but it's just sucky to kind of wallow through this right now and see bad football.
Carolina is the worst team in the NFL. The Saints might be the second worst team in the NFL.
They're definitely the second worst team in the NFC.
Carolina is the worst team in the NFL, bar none. Maybe the Patriots. The Patriots beat the Jets yesterday. So
the Jets,
even the Browns. I would say, hey, the Browns and Jameis Winston, the fighting Jameis Winstons, they beat the Ravens.
Right.
So I mean, if you're Deshaun Watson, you kind of feel like a dump truck. But Hey,
a rich dump truck though.
Yeah, a dump truck full of money. But man, it's tough. And like the Panthers at this point are kind of the free space in bingo. And the only way you don't get that free space is if your dabber is completely out of ink. And maybe the Saints dabber's out of ink, guys. Maybe it is. I was kind of half convinced that the Saints might make a move this morning and just say, you know what, I'm done. They clearly aren't. And that's probably the smart move. Like, I don't think things are going to get better if you fire the coach mid-season. But at a certain point, it's like, how do you justify it to your fans? I do think they're going to give my guess is they'll give DA a chance to get his quarterback back. Like, it does seem a little unfair to fire a coach when a
rookie fifth rounder is your quarterback,
right? Like, what are the expectations for that situation? And yes, they are higher than what has happened, but it's probably a little unreasonable to say like, yeah, the final nail in your coffin is the rookie fifth round pick didn't play well enough and you couldn't win. So that's probably what it is. But either way, that's tough. And
I think though, like you mentioned, with the Panthers being that free space in bingo, if things go nuclear this week, the Saints wouldn't pull the trigger in the middle of the season. All bets off then if you lose at Carolina.
Yeah, I don't think you can survive that.
Right.
Like I think Bobby was like, yeah, the sky might not necessarily be falling right now. If you lose in Carolina, the sky's on the ground. Like there's no sky. It's gone. It's just fire and brimstone, and you are no longer where you thought you were. You're in the other place. And
somehow we've gotten there already. Week 2, I was dancing with the daisies and the rainbows, and everything was great.
I was dunking on the power rankings in week 2, and I'm still happy I did that. But I'm just glad I did it when I did, and I stopped immediately. But either way, so let's move on. Again, we're being really critical of a rookie quarterback. I don't want to be. The Saints put him in this situation, so I don't have a choice.
It wasn't good.
But one of the other downs is like offensive line execution. Like, I went back and I'm through the first half. I'm kind of reviewing that game as frustrating as it is. I do want to go back and kind of watch it. And I don't think Spencer played that badly outside of some of the inaccuracy. It was like every time the Saints, it felt like they had something going, you had a dumb penalty. Lucas Patrick had 2 holding penalties in the first half that wiped out positive plays and set you up behind the sticks, and you weren't overcoming that. You had some explosive plays. The wildest thing about these last 3 games is the first play of each game was a 20-plus yard play. Against the Bucks, it was a long pass to Juwan Johnson. Against the Broncos, it was a long pass to Foster Moreau. In this game, it was a long run by Alvin Kamara. And none of those drives resulted in points. Think about that. You had your first play of a drive is a 20-plus yard, either completion or a run. And you cannot turn any of those drives into even a field goal attempt. and sure, it's a lot. Some of it's on the quarterback. A lot of it's just on the offense. Like, you cannot be getting these dumb holding penalties. Every offensive lineman other than Cesar Ruiz had at least one dumb penalty that cost the Saints a chance for either a extended drive into field goal range or a quality opportunity to score a touchdown. Fuaga had a false start penalty on a 3rd and 5. When the balance of that game was still being decided, you get in the end zone on that drive, and it's, you were in touch a majority of that game. You just needed to sustain some offense and put some points up on the board. Now, Blake Grippy missed a field goal, his first miss of the season. Like, I want to be mad at Blake Grippy. It was his first miss of the season. You're going to miss some kicks. So, it's tough. But, that should have been a chance. I'm going on 4th down there. If I can get it to 4th and short or something like that. Instead, it's 4th and 10. And yes, I'm kicking. But that should have been a legit opportunity to get in the end zone. It wasn't. Connor McGovern had an ineligible man downfield penalty on a positive play. Multiple
that seems to be called a lot this year.
I think it's an emphasis. I think it's a point of emphasis for the NFL. That and illegal formations and stuff like that. So, right. But I mean, it was the right call. He was downfield. And it's tough because I don't pay attention to where the linemen are on every play, so it could be happening and going uncalled, and then one time it gets called and it's annoying. I thought the refs had a terrible freaking day. I mean, just bad. They just made so many dumb mistakes that it's what are you doing? Like even like the throw to Chris Olave, that catch, like that's clearly a catch on the field. And it's like, yeah, the ball came out and bounced out of bounds. Like, yeah, he took a big hit. That's a catch. It's obviously a catch. They called it incomplete. Justin Herbert had a play where he backed up right before the safety. He throws the ball right into his lineman's arms, and they didn't even talk about it. They were just like, incomplete. J.K. Dobbins is like 12 yards like outside, not even looking. And they're just like, yeah, he's in the area. No, that's intentional grounding. He's getting sacked. Like, anyway, it was a bad day all around. But the offensive line, it's funny because I would say like it's frustrating because the Saints have allowed that position to go to waste. And it would be easier if I could say that. I can't say that. Like I had someone, mention on Twitter, people need to stop texting me. Like, oh, the Saints just need to keep investing in the offensive line, or they need to keep drafting offensive linemen until they figure it out. And I'm like, yeah, I agree with that. But the problem is they have been doing that.
Right.
Like, you look at the group they sent out there, there's 3 first-round picks. If 3 out of your 5 offensive linemen are first-round picks, you've invested. And then the guy you don't have, who's on injured reserve, is a second-round pick who was your top pick in that draft that you traded up for. So that's a pretty significant investment in Eric McCoy. So, I mean, like, you can't say they haven't invested in it. Now, have they picked the right guys? But, I mean, you take a first-round guard, that's you investing in your offensive line. You take a first-round right tackle, you take a first-round left tackle. They haven't picked inside the top 10 to get some of these elite guys. But these are first-round picks, and they're just not getting the job done. Like, if you have one position on your offensive line that is not a top 50 pick, 40 pick even, then the investment is there. The results have to be better. So I'm going to be critical of the players.
That other guy too, who's the all-pro, whose career sadly looks like it's over. He's not part of the mix right now either.
And he would be another first-round pick.
Right. Exactly.
It's not like that was a lifetime ago. It's 2017. Teron Armstead was a 3rd-round pick. So you could say they're investing more in it now than they may ever have in the history of the team when you really look at it. Like Jari Evans was a top pick. Jari Evans was a 3rd rounder, 5th rounder, 3rd rounder. I think he was a 3rd rounder. Either way, so it's like the problem isn't that they're investing in it. They're just not making the correct investments. Like if you could put all your money in Enron, that's not doing it for you in the end of the day. The ROI is it's not good. But either way, like to me, the offensive line, that was supposed to be this, like, hey, we're getting some of these guys back. We're getting Cesar Ruiz back. And I actually think Cesar had a decent day.
For sure.
But it's
there was that good one we saw him running downfield with Alvin again.
Yeah. He got like leg whipped on that play. I got worried. But no, the Jets are back. Connor McGovern also got out on that play too. I almost wish Connor would get out of the way because I think he cost them a chance to make a touchdown because he kind of blocked Alvin. Like he was trying to make a block, but he needs to kind of get out of that lane so that Alvin can fill. And instead, Alvin had to cut back and he got tackled. But either way, I'm not gonna criticize Connor because it was a pretty good effort play for him. And he also like literally showed up off the street 4 weeks ago. So like the fact that he's out there playing it all, fine. I don't know.
No, and you look at things with the offense, and yeah, there definitely seemed to be like that wall they just couldn't get past to get into the end zone. And obviously, at the end of the game, they had a lot more chances at the end, and still couldn't do it with Haener. Overall, it's wild to think that where the unit was producing in week 2 to where we've gone now, the significant amount of drop off. It doesn't seem real.
It's crazy. Also, if you want to follow along, I lay a lot of this out in the 3 Up 3 Down post that I put on WWL after the game. I'll drop it in the comments with a link now. So if you want to go check that out, but I have one more and down, I should say, because this has been going on for a while, and it's defensive backs, but specifically defensive backs at the catch point. And it's frustrating because like the recipe for the Saints in this game that I thought was effective in general in terms of like, hey, what did you want to do in this game? You wanted to bottle up the run, and you wanted to force the Chargers to have to try to beat you with their very suspect cast of characters at wide receiver. Like I went into this game saying, hey, if I'm forcing them to beat me with Ladd McConkey and Jalen Reagor and Simi Fehoko and Josh Palmer, I am happy about what I have done defensively. And the Saints did that. They bottled up the rushing game for the Chargers. Let's see. I lost the thing. So J.K. Dobbins, 17 carries, 57 yards. He did have the touchdown, a short touchdown run, 3.4 yards per carry. That's a win. That's a win for me if I'm the Saints. Kamani Vidal, however you say his name, 6 carries for 16 yards, 2.7 yards per carry, along with 5 yards. That's a win for me. I am a defense that has not been able to stop the run. I stopped the run against a team that desperately wants to run. The problem was, it seemed like every time Justin Herbert just threw it up in a one-on-one coverage, the defensive back was there. Ladd McConkey, 60-yard touchdown. I still can't figure out how he caught that ball. Like, Alante should have intercepted it, let alone let that, like, how he kept running. He was perfectly positioned and he couldn't make that play. There was another one to Josh Palmer that I can't remember who was in coverage. That was a long play. There was one to Jalen Reagor that looked like Kool-Aid just kind of got lost. He was there. He just didn't make a play on the ball. The touchdown, I think it was Simi Fehoko, maybe Josh Palmer. I can't remember. The kind of put away touchdown. Ugo Amadi is literally standing there. Like, Justin Herbert is extending the play. Ugo's just like, oh, that's right. The ball's there. I guess I should make a play on that. Like, every opportunity. Marshawn Lattimore again. Sorry.
That last score was to McConkey again.
Oh, was it McConkey again? He had 2 touchdowns?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, but again, like, Ugo was right there. Make a play on the ball, dude.
No, right. It was like, that was another one I was like, too. I was like, how is that a catch and a touchdown?
Justin Herbert threw the ball right where Ugo Amadi was standing.
Yes.
Like, he was not open. He just like, oh, well, they can't make a play. I'm going to throw it to him. And it worked every single time. Jalen Reagor was on the Patriots practice squad 3 weeks ago, and they cut him. The Patriots cut Jalen Reagor from their practice squad, and he's out here mossing the Saints' second-round draft pick. Come on. Marshawn got beat by Simi Fehoko a couple times. People are saying Marshawn's making a business decision with the hamstring. I think he is actually dealing with a hamstring injury, because my evidence for that is he's getting burned by Simi Fehoko. Like, that's not normal. The Saints actually got bailed out by 1 second on the clock, I think, because I'm pretty sure if there was a review of that first catch by Fehoko, they probably would have called him in bounds based on his foot kind of dragged and then fell. But
see, I didn't think it ended up dragging in still.
I think it was close enough that Harbaugh didn't want to challenge it because it would have been his last challenge of the game. And it didn't really matter because they scored a touchdown anyway.
Right.
But if it was 2 seconds later, that's a booth review. And I don't know, that crew.
Right. No, and with the Saints luck, who freaking
all
knows?
Bets are off for that freaking crew, man. But yeah, to me, that's, and it's like, okay, what do you lose with Paulson Adebo, right? Now, Paulson might get a couple penalties. He might make some kind of boneheaded plays and kind of drive you nuts. But one thing he does at an elite level is make plays on the ball. I think he leads the NFL in like forced takeaways since like the start of last season or something, a stat like that. I can't recall exactly what it is, but he makes plays on the ball. It's what he does. Now he might grab, he might get a little handsy, but he's not getting that ball completed over his head like that. And I think that's kind of what you lose when he's not there, is a guy who's gonna kind of make those plays and break up passes. And that's frustrating because, again, you got what you wanted. Like, you forced Justin Herbert to have to try to beat you on the edges of the field, and you could not take advantage of it. And, like, this game wasn't about the defense. Like, I don't know if there's anything the defense could have done to help, really kind of, it's like, if you're going to put up 8 points, if you're forcing your defense to hold a team to 8 or fewer points for you to win a game, it's not about the defense. But that was frustrating to see because, the Saints have invested a lot in their defensive back room, and this is supposed to be your strength. And instead it was the biggest weakness of the game.
Another big bummer in the game, I thought, was the health of running back Kendra Miller. Just when we wanted to get back and root for the guy, he's on the shelf again.
Yeah, hold on. I mean, so 992 RAS says, no, it wasn't a catch. You have to get your heel in. No, I understand what you're saying. Like, if you get the front of your foot in, the heel has to come down. It looked like the whole foot dragged prior to the second step. And I think if you review that, it probably does get overturned. It was very close, and I think Jim didn't want to use a second challenge. But like there was several reviews that kind of were confusing, but you could see it on the kind of the super close up that you could see the pellets fly. And I don't know. Either way, it doesn't matter because they scored a touchdown anyway. But yeah, to get to Kendre Miller, it's frustrating because he should be in my up column because I thought he's just every time he touches the ball, something good happens. The problem is if he touches the ball more than like 4 or 5 times, his hamstring falls off his body. But like, and you look at his line and you're talking about 3 for 16, it's 5.3 yards per carry, but that doesn't even include like he had a 15-yard run where there was 3 guys in a line. And he just made them all miss and went for 15 yards. And then Lucas Patrick got a hold that did not impact the play at all. He had another 10-yard run that I can't remember what it got called back for. Might have been another hold. I think it was Trevor Penning on the hold that time. So like you're talking about
energy you definitely needed, and then it was just gone.
Yeah. And so you're talking about, hey, like if you include those 2 runs, which obviously you don't, but I mean, just in the sense of nothing Kendre did was what ruined that. You're talking about what, 41 yards on 5 carries? That's like a game-changing type explosive play element that the Saints defense desperately needs, or Saints offense desperately needs. And he gave it to you, and then he didn't. He even had a kick return. He got it out to like the 42-yard line.
That's what did him in right there, that kick return, man.
It might have.
That was the tipping point.
Yeah, and it was the hamstring injury to the opposite leg, which is probably a positive thing when you want to if it was this, I would actually be more concerned if it was the same leg, because that injury was so significant that it kept him out for 2 months. Like if he re-injured that, I'd be like, oh, he's probably done for the year. Hopefully it's a much less significant injury and it's not going to keep him out an extended period of time, but
who knows?
What do you do? It's just too much, man. It's too much.
Oh, it was also, I know we're going to get to him in the up segment, but definitely disappointing at the end of the game. You talk about another injury deal. What's going to be the status of Werner? He just got back, was definitely making an impact, and it looked like he kind of, I don't know what it was at the end of the game exactly that he hurt.
Yeah, I think it looked like he just kind of came down on the ball. Like I don't think he necessarily, it wasn't a hamstring, which is what he was dealing with.
Right.
So if he is dealing with an injury, it's a different injury. It kind of just looked like he maybe an ankle or something. But yeah, he also missed a gift wrapped interception there, which was frustrating. But he had such a good game that I can't even be mad about it. No,
I hear you, right.
Yeah, Chris Olave had a really nasty, Chris, again, these 2 guys, both of them had really good games in my opinion, but Chris had a terrible drop on that first Jake Haener drive.
I hate to say, I mean, this is just me watching a game, but he seemed to be a little hesitant or leery, and I wonder if obviously he's worrying about his head.
I mean,
I know it's hard.
How many times do you have to get blown up and get a concussion before you play smarter?
Right.
I call it playing smart. I call that playing smart, because you're talking about not a big wide receiver who cannot be taking the type of hits he took on that first throw. I mean, he got crushed on that play. He's not he didn't have a concussion. He's lucky he didn't break a rib or, he got blown the F up. And I don't know. It's tough to even say that's on the quarterback. It was just, you're trying to make a play, and it was a nice throw. It was a nice catch. I wouldn't say he hung him out to dry. He gave him an opportunity. It's one of those situations where you'd like Chris to maybe be aware of that guy and try to avoid the hit rather than turning right into it.
Right.
But that's a tough criticism either way. I don't want Chris taking hits, so I'm okay with him going down before contact. And I thought he had some good yak later in the game, especially on those last couple drives, right? So he is turning up field. He's trying to make plays.
Hard to criticize a 100-yard game too. So
right, I thought he had a good game. It was just that one drop that really bugged me because it was a 3rd down play. It would have been a 1st down deep in the red zone. It was the first Jake Haener drive. He settled for a field goal, and it literally went right through his hands. I thought he had a good game otherwise, so I can't be mad about him.
I know they peppered him a bunch.
Yeah, he got targets. It's about time, I tried to trade for him in fantasy last week because I figured people would be fed up with him, but no one would bite. I tried to trade Amari Cooper for him, and they wouldn't do it. My 8-0 fantasy team is on the ropes, by the way, or my 7-0 fantasy team, because Jordan Mason got hurt.
I started out 0-5 and have won my last 2 in my money, the one I really care about.
Yeah.
But I don't have any hope that I can make the playoffs.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, let's end this segment. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about a few good things, hit the mailbag, and then ideally we'll get you out of here in time to hear Dennis Allen say the same things at his press conference. And we'll do that. But
chopping wood.
Keep chopping wood, baby. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck couldn't play football? Okay. Who dat is Inside Black and Gold. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. Otherwise, stick around, and we'll be right back. And we are back on Inside Black and Gold. I'm back in Louisiana. Man, these road trips have not been pleasant. I want to like I can't even bring myself to enjoy the comped meals. That's the lie. I do. It's rough, man. Like it's got to be, you walk into these buildings and you want to be able to like talk trash to some of the local fans and be like, yeah, we got this. Like, yeah, you think you're tough, you think you're all that, and like you're the Chargers. But even then, I'm like, oh, what do we got? Like, what do I have to say? Like, what ammunition do I have to like, be the Bears player who's talking trash while the ball's getting snapped? Like, I don't have it. I can't do it.
Hey, did you see week 2 in Dallas, man? That's what you got to say.
I saw that second line. Glad we got it out of the way early. But all right, let's do some positive thinking here. Let's, because and this is how I justify it every week. Because as bad as this season gets and as rough as this season has been and how unenjoyable these games are, the Saints aren't going to like close up shop and open a used car lot on Airline Highway. They're going to keep playing football. So however this thing looks this season and beyond, you're going to have to build around something, right? And so to a certain extent, you have to look at, okay, who played well? Like, who did a good job? Because not everything was terrible. Again, I thought the defense, they did the job. Like, I thought this was the first game in a while that I thought the defense played well enough to win a game, and they got completely let down by the offense. Like, the last 2 games, I felt like kind of both things were true. Like, the offense struggled, but the defense also didn't play well enough to win. Like, you got a quick 3 and out on the opening possession. You pinned them back deep and ended up forcing a safety. Like, obviously there was that gash run by Justin Herbert, but that was basically all they got done in the first quarter. Second quarter, you held until you didn't. Like, again, it's not a coincidence that the Saints have a hard time on these half-ending drives, right? Like, if you look at the drives where the Saints get kind of driven down the field, like incrementally, I think it was a 15-play touchdown drive. They're late in the half. You've spent the entire half on the field. The offense hasn't been able to sustain any offense. You're gassed. Like, so much of NFL defensive failures will come down to how tired are you right now, right? And that, I think that was an explanation for that late touchdown drive in the first half by the Chargers and a couple of the issues late in the game. But I thought they played well, and I thought Pete Werner, like, you're talking about, hey, what does Pete Werner add? Like, what is the actual difference? You saw, like, that first drive, he blew it up himself. Like he sniffed out a screen behind the line of scrimmage. He covered well. And then I think he kind of blew up, like Chase Young was a part of it too, but he kind of blew up that third down play. So it's a punt. The next drive, they try to run a screen again, blows it up, right? Like he did that multiple times. He made tackles. He was the leading tackler in the game. I think he had 2 tackles for loss. Let's see.
Yeah, and he was definitely, it seemed like when you were looking at who's making the play, it was Pete in on it.
He was in position all the time. You didn't see the Saints be out of position like they have been. And that's important in the run game. Like I think people don't appreciate like the communication that's involved when you're trying to stop the run and fill gaps. And like I think he's a big part of that. And I think you saw it. He played with energy, he played with enthusiasm. He just looked like a guy who was ready to make plays. And I think everyone kind of fed off that. And you went from there. So I certainly can't be mad about Pete Werner in this game. I thought he played well. And you look at, okay, why did they decide to extend him in the preseason? Because he's going to be kind of a cornerstone piece of your defense for the foreseeable future, regardless of who's leading it. You could fire Dennis Allen and bring in a new coach. He's going to want players. And I think Pete's going to be one of those players, regardless of who's leading that group.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, it was nice to see him back in the fold. Hopefully all is well with him and it's nothing serious and is back in the mix this week, because definitely a noticeable difference when you notice that there was more short tackling, and it seemed like that kind of spread throughout, where people were able to better take down guys a lot better than they were in the past.
Yeah, I didn't see a lot of missed tackles in this game.
No.
The funny thing is one of them is on the next guy on my list who I thought played really well, but I don't even put it on him. I put it on the reps for not doing their goddamn job. Like, you have a guy wrapped up, you blow the play dead. His forward progress is stopped. You blow the play dead. And then
they don't understand what happened there.
They just let it go on and go on. It's like, guys, your job is to blow the play dead there. And I'm a defender who's going to get called for a penalty if I try to suplex this guy, or if I try to hip drop tackle this guy. I'm going to get a massive fine. You're not going to throw the flag, because it seems like every NFL official has agreed we're not going to actually throw a hip drop tackle flag, but I am going to get a $30,000 fine in the mail. So, what are my options here? Blow the freaking play dead. Instead, they just let it go, and it was like, oh, look, JK's still running. Like, he's been hit 4 times. He's getting dragged back. Yeah, let's see what happens. Yeah, go fuck yourself. But when the quarterback stumbles and falls, I gave himself up. Gave himself up. Go get the hell. I hate that that officiating crew. I don't even know their names. I'm not even gonna go look it up. They sucked. They really did.
No, that was definitely one of those deals. You're like, wait a minute, what is going on here?
It's just stupid. He had been moving backward for 5 seconds, and then they're just like, yeah, let's see what happens. Let's let this play out. Anyway, so I'm talking about Colin Saunders, because that was the play that he had J.K. Dobbins literally wrapped up in the grasp. They, for whatever reason, decided not to blow the play dead. He tries to kind of just throw him to the ground. He should have just kind of ridden him down. But again, hip drop tackle. Not supposed to do that. So it ended up being a first down, whatever.
That's exactly what I thought there too. In his head, he's going, I can't do the hip drop tackle.
I can't just go to the ground and drag him down, because I will get a fine at the very least. So yeah, right. And then he's a dirty player. He's a dirty player. Yeah, I mean, anyway, whatever. But I thought Colin played really well in this game. He had one play where he just got off a block and just devoured J.K. Dobbins in the hole. He had a 10-yard sack on Justin Herbert where he just shed a block, got upfield, and I think it's kind of like, it's like if you ever seen an alligator run, you think that's not fast enough. This thing can chase down a dog.
Right.
You get him in a straight line, they got you. And I feel like that's kind of Colin. He's got those kind of short,
wiggle.
He's like the juggernaut. Once he gets going, it's he's gonna go fast. And it seemed like he just caught Justin Herbert off guard. He was like, that guy can't move that fast. And then all of a sudden, it's a 10-yard sack. I think he had 2 tackles for loss. Let's see. His stat line is pretty impressive for an interior lineman in this game. He had 4 total tackles, a sack for 10 yards, a QB hit, and a tackle for loss. I think he's been playing well. I think he's been one of the better defensive players, and I think he was a big part of why you were able to stuff the run in this game a lot better than you have, because I thought he played well.
He's been a man on fire since going back to Kansas City.
Yeah, I mean, he got off to a slow start because you're dealing with a calf injury, and the Falcons game, I didn't think he played particularly well. But I think he's been one of their better defensive players. Nathan Shepard, I don't think has been one of the better defensive players.
Well, you mentioned the dirty stuff, and that's come up too. It's not a good look when you look to see the film over and over and over again.
No, and Colin called Emmanuel Ocho a hoe.
Right, exactly.
I'm like, I don't know, Bank. I don't know if this is the winning scenario for you on this one, because that did look dirty to me.
It looks like WWE.
Well, and the problem is Justin Herbert refuses to go down, so you just and I don't think he did. I don't think he's actively trying to hurt the guy, but at the same time, he is trying to take him down in a way that's kind of, not conscious of, hey, I don't care if it's kind of if he dies kind of thing,
Exactly right.
And I don't blame the offensive lineman for blowing him up.
No,
but the play where I thought they had Justin Herbert down for a safety and they couldn't bring him down, and it's like I understand, and even
he's
on that
big
play,
dude, right?
Even on that play, the clip starts right after Justin underhands the ball out while Nathan is laying on the ground. And I think if you include that in the clip, it doesn't look nearly as egregious. But in just that clip, it looks like Justin hasn't had the ball forever, and he's just laying on his leg trying to gator roll him. Either way, it's a penalty. You can't tackle the quarterback by his legs, so you just got to let him go. But that's the Tom Brady rule. But either way, it's not great. But either way, I thought Bink had a good game. I thought Nathan Shepard has not been particularly good this year. And the interior defensive line has not been good this year. Brian Brzee, where's he been? So
woohoo, we saw Chase Young get half a sack.
I thought Chase had a good game. I don't think Chase has been bad. I know everyone's mad because his stats aren't there, and he's Chase Young and you expect him to blow games up. He's been playing reasonably well. The defensive line was not the issue in this game. You put a lot of pressure on Justin Herbert. Again, I thought the defense played well outside of the corners on the outside. One more, I thought, Jake Haener played reasonably well going into a situation. I've seen people say they're dialing up better plays for Jake Haener. No, they're dialing up training camp plays for Jake Haener. They didn't have a game plan for Jake Haener.
They got better plays for
practice. The game plan was for Spencer Rattler. They didn't spend time this week saying, hey, Jake, if you get in there, this is what you're going to do. No, these are just the plays that he knows. And they worked, at least to an extent. But, what Jake does that I appreciate is he gets the ball out of his hand, he gets it there on time, and he gets it to the guy on target more often than not. Right. And you saw that in that game, you were able to work the ball downfield by getting the guys the ball and letting them run with it. And we just haven't seen any of that over the last 3 weeks. And that's why it kind of stood out to me. It's also, I appreciate his ability to change arm slots too. Matt Stafford is a guy who's done this really well over the course of his career, and it's helped him succeed despite not being the best athlete in the world. It's there's a guy there. You can kind of just drop down and get the ball out. And that's an important skill to have when you're facing constant pressure. Now, did you get in the end zone? No. Was it perfect? No. But I did feel like you could at least generate offense and points with him in there in ways that you were unable to do with Spencer in there. And I'll give him credit for that. Again, it's I don't know what's your baseline. My expectations have been lowered to a degree where just driving down the field and getting a field goal attempt is
yeah, you start. Oh, let me get your popcorn. It's this is going to be exciting here.
I mean, take that for what it is. I thought he played well for in the situation he was thrown into. They didn't even talk about it at halftime. They weren't considering necessarily putting him in there. He didn't hear anything about it until Andrew Janocko came over to him with about 4 minutes left in the third quarter and said, "Hey man, you're in the game." All right. So you appreciate a backup who can go in there and operate, right? Because I watched. Yeah, I bet you watched this game too last Sunday with the Saints off. I watched the Giants play the Eagles, and I watched the Giants bench Daniel Jones, and then Drew Lock wanders into the game, and he was I forgot how to throw a football. I am a professional thrower of footballs, and I don't know how to do it anymore. It was excruciating to watch. It was so bad that the Giants are going back to Daniel Jones. So it's not a given that the backup comes in and executes. So you got to give him credit for doing that. Now, I think you're hoping that Derek Carr gets back for week 9. If not, you got to make a decision. And I'm going with Jake. I gave Spencer 3 starts. I gave him his chances. I think what Jake has done has given you at least enough to say like, hey, let's see what he has over the course of a game. If you have to go that route, I think Derek's probably going to play, but I think you kind of, once you bench a guy, it's really tough to turn back to him the next week.
Yeah, I sure hope obviously Carr's back, but I would agree with you there. I think now I even thought even coming in the end of last matchup where the previous one where kind of Spencer left with that little bit of a hip issue and then Hainer, immediately takes the offense down the field. I was like, all right, he's earned the start, but the team stuck with Spencer. And I don't have a problem with that either, honestly. I just thought I could see them making the move. But another positive for me for this game, I'll say Alvin Kamara, for a guy that obviously got his deal done, for some reason wants to stick around and be a part of this nonsense. And, 122 all-purpose yards, didn't get in the end zone, but nobody did.
No, he played well.
Shout out to AK.
Yeah, no, I agree with I agree with the methodology of like, hey, we asked the guy to make 2 starts in 5 days. That's tough for anybody, let alone a rookie. We're gonna give him 10 days. We're gonna see if he can use that and kind of propel himself forward. Didn't really go the way you'd hoped. So I don't fault them for doing it that way. Once you went to Spencer, it was only fair to commit to him beyond that second start when he really didn't have a chance. Now I think you've kind of seen what you need to see. I agree with you on Alvin. I do wonder, Alvin, it's like he wants to stay here, but is it more about just not wanting to play anywhere else than wanting to stay here? Because it's just
he talked about that too. He recognizes obviously his legacy is here, and soon enough he's going to pass Ingram, who passed Deuce up.
Yeah, he'll get there. And yeah, he had 122 yards on 16 touches. Can't be mad about that. The drops are frustrating, but he's playing with a broken hand. So he kind of anytime he drops the ball, I'm like, maybe throw a little softer when the guy's got a broken hand. I don't know.
I'll let it slide for the broken hand. Okay.
Yeah. Again, Chris Olave, first 100-yard game. There was a couple issues, but I thought generally he played well. Ugo Amadi got his first career sack, so I got to give him a gold star for that. Alontae Taylor,
touchdown.
Alontae Taylor had some mistakes in coverage. I thought he played well at the line of scrimmage. Again, he's playing well as a nickel corner. His struggles in this game were as an outside corner, and it's just not something he's done a lot this year. So, I think that's a direct product of that. If he's playing outside of corner exclusively, he probably makes that play. And it did look like he was mixed up a couple times in coverage. And even Joe Woods was like, yeah, he might get his wires crossed a few times making that shift, because it's just that's a lot more difficult of a shift to make than people give you credit for. My last one, and I don't even think he played particularly well. I just got to give him some credit because he punted 9 times and his leg didn't fall off his body. I think he had 437 punting yards.
Right.
It's Matt Hayball. It wasn't his best game. He had a couple kicks that went to the end zone for touchbacks that, really shouldn't have. One of them was on the coverage because I can't remember who it was. He was down there. I think it might have been Rico Payton or somebody like that. And they deked him out. The kick returner, Ladd McConkey, was acting like he was going to field it, but he was 20 yards to the right of where the ball landed. And then the ball just hit at the 5. And if the gunner had identified where the ball actually was, he can get over there and make a play on it. Instead, he was standing next to Ladd McConkey, who was pretending to field the ball. So I don't put that on Hayball, because the way he kicked it, if the coverage actually saw it, they could have made a play on it. But the one where he
down segment, our punt return sucks.
I don't know. I think
brain farts. Then whatever you want to call it,
you got to give what's his name, the kicker for the.
Oh
Chargers.
Yeah, he was booming them for sure.
I mean, you got to give him some credit, because I think a lot of what was going on is Jermaine Jackson was standing there ready to field it, and he had to sprint backwards 3 different times to get the ball, and it's hard to keep and identify where you are on the field when you're doing that. And so that's why he ended up at the 4-yard line on one punt, but he started at the 20. And it just kept going. So, I don't. He did. He had
a fair catch at the 5, I think.
Yeah, I can't recall, but J.K. Scott. I think it's J.K. Scott.
He was killing him.
Yeah, he had his kick. His average was 57.3 yards. He had a 67-yard kick. 67. The field's only 100 yards long. So yeah, Like here's the thing. Okay, so Matt Hayball had 9 kicks for 437 yards. J.K. Scott, it's either J.K. or Jake, I can't remember, had 6 kicks for 344 yards. So he was booming them, and so like that's why I find it difficult to be too critical of the punt returner because I mean that's he just didn't know where to stand. And at a certain point, stand farther back, man. But
no, I get it with Jermaine Jackson being the inexperienced player there. Maybe you should have had somebody, a guy a little more seasoned in. I don't know. I guess I don't know who the hell you put in there though.
there's nobody. I do think you got to give Jake their punter credit because he made life very difficult on the returners. Now he got to handle it better, but I kind of put it that way. But all right, that's all I got. Anything else before we get into the mailbag?
Nothing. I'm trying to think of anybody else that was up. Nothing really comes to mind, sadly. Any Hoodats that made the trip out west for this? Shout out to you too, I guess.
There was a good number of Saints fans there.
Yeah, huh?
And that's the thing. Like Chargers don't have fans, man. They were just. It's like the fans in the building. It kind of had the vibe of like, yeah, what are you doing on Sunday? I want to go to the Chargers. It was like like the turnout for their games is kind of like a minor league baseball game where it's just like, yeah, why not? It's cheap.
Hey,
what do you do on a Sunday afternoon, right?
What?
Get some stadium food. You know.
Gosh,
go up. By the way,
I wonder if they have a Jimmy over there telling them about the secondary market prices for tickets.
Yeah, probably. They probably do. Do you know they have a cannon in that building?
Cannon?
Yeah, it's supposed to be a thunderclap, but it is so freaking loud. I didn't know it was happening the first time, and it was like, holy. And then like they scored 3 touchdowns, which probably they're probably running out of ammunition because they haven't had 3 touchdowns in that building in decades. But or at least not for the Chargers. I didn't hear it during the Rams game. That's why I didn't know it existed. Because when you're out there to watch the Rams, they didn't have that. It's like supposed to be a thunderclap for the Chargers because their mascot is a cloud.
Right. I got you.
And so, but it was like all 3 times it went off, and I was like, holy shit. Because it's like boom.
I never get used to those damn cannons in Tampa.
No, the pirate ship is bad too. Like it's alarming.
Very, very jarring for sure.
It's too much. It's too much. You're doing too much. But all right. That's it. That's all I got. We'll come back. We'll do a mailbag, and then we'll let you listen to Dennis Allen's spiel. But all right, this is Inside Black and Gold. I'm Jeff Nowak. He's Steve Geller. We'll be right back. And we're back on Inside Black and Gold. We're going to do a quick mailbag here. Been going for an hour, so there's plenty in there. But first one, and I do want to bring this up because I thought it was funny. 992 RAS says Kamara had a great one-handed catch, and all I could think when I saw that was like, I bet that's not his broken hand.
Exactly.
I just thought it was funny because it's like, I wonder which hand he felt comfortable going with one hand. I think it's his right hand that's broken. So if he caught that with the broken hand, I'd have to go back and check. And I know which one it is just because I've seen him like come in with a wrap on it. Either way, it's I thought it was a nice one-handed catch. I will give him credit for that.
We got to get Alvin some new high-tech gloves or something to help him out. I don't know.
He can barely fit his glove on over the wrap. Like, it's funny because like whenever there was he was either against the Bucs or the Broncos. I think it was the Broncos. Like, he had to come out for a play because he had to get his hand retaped, right. And it took him like 2 or 3 plays just to get his glove back on, and it like actually cost him a couple plays in the game. And so like any criticism of Alvin has to be couched in the fact that you know what he's playing through. Like, when he's dropping a ball that's like a rifled in, you have to consider like, would he have caught that if he had 2 functioning hands? I don't know. So,
and we know that the ribs can't be 100% too, obviously. So ribs, hand.
I thought he moved in that game better than I have seen him. So I think maybe he is feeling a little better from a rib perspective and from a hip perspective. Like, I thought he was a little shiftier in that game. He made guys miss a little bit more than he did against the Broncos. But maybe, I mean, like, that first run was just good blocking, which doesn't happen that often. Monster Love wants to know, what are your thoughts about Kool-Aid? Yeah, that's a tough one. I think you're probably relying on him a little more than you want to. Like, rookie players struggle, and he struggled. He was out of position a couple times. Dennis Allen said in the post game, like, there was one play that he just didn't play the coverage correctly. Like, he thought he was supposed to do one thing and he did something else, or he was supposed to do one thing and he thought he was supposed to do something else. Whatever. That play to Jalen Reagor, like, you gotta make a play on that ball. He's got rooked a little bit, and so I don't know. Like, we'll see how he develops. I don't think you wanted to be relying on him at this point in the season. You'd much rather have a Debo and Lattimore out there. Ugo Amadi in the slot is not what you hoped for. Yeah, he did get signed to the active roster, so he will stick around. He moved on from Jonathan Abram, and shout out to Rod Teamer, who made his NFL debut, former Tulane guy. But no, definitely a couple learning moments for Kool-Aid, and we'll see how he bounces back.
Hopefully, because obviously you knew there were going to be growing pains with him, but like you mentioned with that play with Reagor, not good look there at all. That was awful.
Yeah, and it's Jalen Reagor.
Exactly. Ugh. Although the Eagles would disagree.
I'm going to try to read this name. T Mama, Glam Mimi Sweets, Treats, and Catering. A lot of words. But I hope I got it right.
I wonder what her specialty is. What's the sweetest treat she's got?
What is the sweetest treat? Anyway, she says it was worth sitting in SoFi watching that ish live. So I think that was a response to me saying like, "Hey, I hope you went to see Taylor Swift." And she was at SoFi. So no, there was a good number of Saints fans out there. I always feel bad because like Saints fans travel pretty well. Like, definitely. As bad as this season has gotten, there was a good number of Saints fans there to watch that travesty. So you'll never criticize the Saints for not getting out there and cheering them on.
I would always laugh, when I would go on the road and see in Atlanta, there was a whole bunch of black and gold in the first like 5 to 10 rows, and you're like, wow.
Yeah. I think that most of them cleared out before the end of the game, but they were there.
Sure, right.
Eddie the Don says everyone but Olave, AK, and Fuaga should be on the trade block.
Well,
one of these days we're gonna get to the bye week in a couple weeks, and we're gonna start to have, unless things change drastically over the next 3 weeks, we're gonna start to have these types of conversations of like, okay, who do you build around? Right. There's more players than that. Like Pete Werner's on that list, right? Alontae Taylor's on that list. Like Cesar Ruiz is probably on that list. Like, I'm not trading my lineman like Fuaga, yeah, but like there's more than that, but it's not as many as I want it to be, right? Like it's not as many players as as I feel like it should be. And it's also tough because when you talk about the trade block, there's certain contracts on this roster that you're just not going to be able to trade.
Right.
And it's because of the way you function. And that's why it's been so discouraging to think like, hey, we're going to rebuild, because it's not as simple as like pulling the Band-Aid off. Like, it's a 2 to 3 year process. And I think that's why this
hard
team
to
is
even imagine who do you build around, because who's going to be around? Like, I'm talking about even coach wise.
Yeah, I mean, that's the question, is when you inevitably do start to kind of rebuild and figure it out, it does hinge greatly on who do you bring in and what do they want to do. And are you going to run a 3-4 or 4-3? Are you going to play zone or man based coverages? So you need to have that type of cornerback, right? Like the Saints are a man-to-man heavy defense. So that's the type of cornerback that they have. Now, if you bring in a defensive coordinator who's going to run a lot more zone, you probably have to reset the deck. And, if you bring in a guy who wants to run 3-4, you got to, start getting lighter defensive ends and heavier linebackers, outside linebackers and the like. So, no, it's tough, but either way, like, I think you, like, I know Bobby went off on all the young players and not having enough of them. I think there's more young talent on this team than he's given them credit for, but you don't have the stars. There's no stars.
That's definitely what his point was. There was definitely there's no ace in the hole. You're all pro kind of guy that you have. Like, you see that budding with a young guy right now. I think we said it too. Your main dude on offense, obviously Alvin Kamara is the stud there, and other than that, I don't know. I'm hoping Fuaga is.
Yeah, we'll see. I think he struggled the last few weeks. He hasn't been. And again, that's why it's like, hey, you're relying on rookies at so many key spots that it's like when they play like rookies, you can't be mad about it. You just have to be like, hey, okay, keep improving. You hate to say chopping wood, but keep chopping wood, right?
Ugh.
Now, if he's doing these things in year 3, if you're not like that, but again, I say this every week. When you rely on rookies, you can't be mad at them for playing like rookies. Eddie the Don also says, terrible roster management, terrible head coach, atrocious salary cap management, the worst front office in professional sports. I mean, the results are definitely supporting those arguments. So I can't say that this. I mean, the success has just not been there, and it's hard to see a way out of it for a team that's not willing to make some of these hard decisions. It seems like
to the point we were just talking about with Bobby, talking about the lack of young talent. Yeah, there's been way too many misses with high draft picks. That is definitely inexcusable. You obviously expect some misses, but between the defensive ends and some of the picks with the O-line haven't panned out.
I mean, my hair's fucking going crazy. I've said this a few times. It's the misses, but it's also the draft management. Man, I cannot get my hair to stop being crazy.
Just let it go, let it fly.
It's also the draft asset management. Like you've missed on picks, but you haven't made enough picks at the same time. Like you talk about,
right?
Look at the 2019 draft, and that's like Davenport. It's funny that so much can be pinned on the Marcus Davenport pick, because that was the pick that made you under leveraged from an asset perspective, and then you had to make a bunch of decisions after that continued to push that down the line, right? Like, so you traded 2 first-round picks for Marcus Davenport, so that was a miss. So you missed on that pick. You didn't get to make the next year's pick because you didn't have a first-round pick and you desperately needed to replace Max Unger. You traded more assets to move up and get Eric McCoy, which was a good pick, but it also meant you made like 4 picks that year. And so you pulled Eric McCoy and CJ Gardner-Johnson out of it, but that's it. CJ's gone. So now the only guy from that draft class, from a draft class that's 5 years old, is Eric McCoy, and he's hurt. So you don't have a single member of your 2018 or 2019 draft class on your current roster. And that's not just about missing on picks. That's about the fact that you didn't make picks. You didn't get that first round pick, right? You didn't get a second round pick because you traded them away. And then you look at, okay, so you went up and got Chris Olave. I think that's the right pick in the circumstance, but you gave up a lot of assets to go do that. You added Trevor Penning. You gave up assets to go do that. And so, like, when you trade for the pick and then miss the pick, it's not just about missing the pick. It's about the investment you made. And it was a bad investment. And since that, it's frustrating because you look, it's like, oh man, the 2017 draft was so good. And what did you not do? You actually had extra picks that year. you didn't give up a ton of picks. You did trade up to get Alvin, but like you didn't give up a ton of assets. You made picks. You scouted and you brought those guys in. And the Saints have been pretty good at hitting on their day 2 picks. Now the day 1 picks have been a problem, but the day 2 picks have been good typically. Now you're not going to hit every one. Foskey was a problem, but I don't know. I've said this so many times at this point. I'm a broken record, but it's like that's the one thing I can say about this team in terms of the rebuild that they're going to inevitably have to go through is they have not leveraged future assets in the process of building this current roster. They have all of their original picks for next year, and they should be able to add a few more over the course of the next few weeks if you start to move players. So,
and I know the callings for Dennis Allen are loud to be fired. Mickey Loomis. I'm just shocked. Who that nation? Nobody's bringing up one of the guys mainly in charge of doing all the scouting for these guys in a Jeff Ireland.
Yeah, well, it's always tough because it's like, how much does one guy have the sway on the process? How much of it
that we don't know.
How much of it is your actual process? Like, is your scouting or the attributes you're looking for correct? You know, you talk about these archetypes for players. Are you missing in that respect? Like, do you need to adjust what you're looking for, right?
Well, the archetype for defensive ends, let's rip that off and throw it in the garbage.
Well, exactly. And so we've talked, like last year, Jeff Ireland was talking about, hey, I think we probably need to start to look for more not younger, but more athletic defensive ends, not these big hulking defensive ends, but guys who can move, guys who can play the edge. And, that's, it's funny because like Foskey, I would say, is a smaller defensive end. Now he's not a Nolan, the guy from the Eagles, Nolan Smith. Is that right? But I think that's something that you do have to look at. And is that a product of, like, you could bring in a new scouting director, college scouting director, but if the process is still, hey, this is exactly what we want, then you're going to end up with the same guys. So I don't know. And injuries are tough. Like, you can't project injuries at the NFL level as much as people want to say, like, hey, you can. It's there's no evidence that says, like, hey, this guy got injured in college, who's going to get injured in the NFL. I do think it's funny that everyone was like, Tajay Spears is the best thing that's ever happened, and then no one's watched like what Tajay Spears has done this year.
That's pretty quiet now too.
Yeah,
the Tajay Hive.
Like the Tajay Hive with his 33 carries for 114 yards. They're not. It's not quite as loud as it used to be. Like, he doesn't have that many more yards than Kendre Miller when you look at it. Anyway,
and you go, obviously going into this year, you're thinking, oh man, Henry's gone. Here it comes. Here comes the big breakout.
He's had more than 6 carries in one game, and he went 15 carries for 39 yards. So it's like,
he needs a new opportunity.
Go trade Kendre for Tajay straight up, see what happens. But I do think it's funny. Like, that's been like, they could have had Tajay. Well, what's he done? They just saw like that one play where he jumped over a guy.
Oh, I'm sure you've seen it now too. We should have never let Jameis leave, and it's like, please, people, stop. Please stop.
CMB 100. Winston threw 350 and 3 TDs.
Just there you go.
MVP, best team in the league. All caps here. All caps.
Very serious.
Y'all got rid of him so DA could be with his boyfriend who can only beat the Panthers. He beat the Cowboys too. Come on. No, good for Jameis. Yeah, I saw a comment that was like, Jameis's post-game interviews feel like it's like a rehearsed line for a movie that's never going to get made. He's out there quoting Eminem. It's he's a guy. He's a guy.
He's definitely a character. I'll give him that much.
No, and he'll sling it. You want a guy who's going to go out there and throw the ball regardless of the potential consequences? He will do it. Like, he's not afraid. And sometimes that's what you need when you have that's what Joe Flacco's done, right? Like, how did Joe Flacco have success with that Browns offense? He just went out there and said, F it, I'm throwing. Someone's down there. And it worked. So, hey, there's been weirder things and like, that's why the Deshaun Watson experience was so ridiculous, because it's like, that is a good team. That is a top 5 defense probably. And he still couldn't get anything done. Like, that's on you, bro. Like, and I don't know, like, you could say maybe the rest of the team around him wasn't playing for him, and suddenly they're playing for Jameis because they sure look like an offense that can do stuff.
All that talent got rubbed out of them.
Yeah. Yikes. I'm gonna let you stand on that one. Justin Pasquale says, honestly, if we lose next week to Panthers, we just need to accumulate as many picks as possible for the next couple of years and just building young through the draft. I think that's the only answer. I really do. Like, how do things get better here? Is you find a way to move on from some veteran players in ways that don't completely destroy your cap, but you also just bring in young players and allow them to play and develop. And you're not going to win a lot of games during that process, but that's what you have to do. Like, I'm not going to be mad about Kool-Aid's game because this is the process of getting better at the NFL level. And that's how you develop players, is they develop through playing. So no, I agree with that. And, I think even if you beat the Panthers, I don't think that's going to change it. I don't know if you maybe sell off as hard as you would if you did lose to the Panthers, because I think that's got to be the final nail, especially if Derek plays. But no, I think you have to start building through the draft.
Well, yeah, you can't lose to the Panthers and Lil Bryce over there. It's not even Andy Dalton anymore, which I'd be worried about too with a revenge game.
Mitchell Milano says, yeah, okay, Jameis threw at least 4 to 5 passes that hit Ravens players in the numbers, and they dropped all of them. Why are they acting like they let Mahomes out the door? Yeah, I didn't actually get to watch a majority of that game. I was kind of, because I was on the field, I was awkwardly like watching the game through on the TVs in the suites at the field level for the Rams, or the SoFi. So I can't say that I watched the entirety of that game, but you don't give Jameis shit for throwing for 350 yards and no interceptions. Like, interceptions get dropped. They went and won a game. Give them credit. Tim Fabenro says, how do you as journalists think of questions to ask when you get the same answer every time? It does make it difficult. Now, if you want to talk about getting the same answer every time, go talk to Jameis. Because that was one of the reasons I hated interviewing Jameis, is you will ask him very direct, specific questions, and he will say, like, all glory to God. But Jameis, I asked you about like this specific play. Yeah, we're committed. We're committed. What are you talking about? Like, are we in the same room? Anyway,
he's got his own thing he wants to get out to you.
He's decided what he's going to say to you before you ask the question, and you're getting that answer regardless. The only time we got like candid Jameis twice. One was the interview when he was talking about how he shouldn't have gotten benched because you're not supposed to lose your job with injuries, and he kind of got screwed over, and good on him. The other was when he ran the play out of the victory formation, and he went back and forth with Ed Daniels, RIP.
Shout out to Ed, right?
And it was like, so as long as the content of that conversation was, I hate Dennis Allen, he was willing to give us answers. Any other conversation, it was prepackaged. What is this nonsense? Anyway, Jameis, I'm not gonna lie. Like, the Jameis experience was at least entertaining, and now all we have is just misery. So, like, I can't be mad at the Jameis experience.
Well, I'm just glad he's Cleveland's problem, and my wish of him being the Saints' opponent when they face off might end up coming true.
Hey, he's Cleveland's solution. All right, let's cut this off. Look at this. No, I've been gaining. I've been gaining weight gradually throughout the course of the season. And no, and the reason is I'm sweating because
you got to hit the slow-mo as you quaff your hair back.
Yeah, I think Mitch is just jealous. Monster Love says, what about missing on Zach Bond? And we had him not in the right position, but we let him go and didn't really give him a true opportunity to put him in that position. It'd be great. Sure. I don't know. Has Zach Bond been still playing well? I don't even know. I kind of lost track of him after week 1.
He came out the season gangbusters, but yeah, I haven't really taken notice of his play of late.
Let's see. Let's look. See if I miss Zach Bond. He has 69 total tackles. Nice.
69.
Okay. Well, he just had 15. Oh, no, that was week 1. He had 15 tackles. This week he had 12 tackles, 8 solo. He forced a fumble. Good for him. The Eagles won 37-17. He's been good. He's been solid. The Eagles are winning games, so good for him. No,
I do remember
he found a fit for himself, and that's the important thing.
Yeah, and I know some of the problems with him still obvious was missed tackles, and being in coverage.
I don't think the missed tackles were the issue. I think the coverage was the issue. Like he would get attacked in coverage, and the Saints attacked him in coverage when they played him, and it worked.
Right.
But he's a guy who can get up to the line and do that. Oh, okay. Cool. That's it. I'm done. I'm gonna make sure that I keep the tattoo out of the picture so Mitch doesn't get mad. I'm done.
How many like Dennis Allen zombies we gonna see for Halloween?
Yeah, I think we could, like, I don't think we should see another Derek Carr float, but we can definitely see some like Dennis Allen stuff. I think that would be fair.
Although the way that Carr's been getting knocked around, maybe he's the zombie.
Rattler
too. They're all zombies.
Carr hasn't really been getting hit. Derek Carr through 5 games was sacked 5 times. Spencer Rattler through 2.5 games has been sacked 11 times. That's nuts. The fact that he's still walking around under his own power is actually kind of impressive.
It's the youth, baby.
You gotta give him credit. He's a tough guy. He's been taking hits.
Right.
He's just been getting up and saying, "Give me another."
There's no doubt about. I know you see the eye of the tiger, the want with him, but it just unfortunately didn't come to fruition with execution this game. Like you mentioned, accuracy was a huge problem.
I think he's just you didn't. He's not ready, and I don't know if he ever was going to be ready in his rookie season, but you did it anyway. So got to live with it. And hopefully it's not something that kind of sticks with him the entire way. And if you're wearing bags, I'm going to tell you that you clearly have not been a Saints fan for very long. But
yeah, boo on the bags.
All right, who dat? Go Saints! Thanks everyone for listening. 1 more week in the misery can. 9 more to go, right? Is that right? Is that the right number? Yes. They're 2-6. We got 9 games left. We're not even halfway through the season. We're like right there.
Woohoo!
This is the earliest I can recall being this miserable in an NFL season.
Thanks for everyone listening and watching, obviously, too, and being part of our misery and enjoying it with us.
Yeah. Enjoying
sharing in it.
Yeah, that's a better word. I love it. I mean, I'm a masochist, but I hate this.
It's rough. I mean, yeah, wing's a hell of a lot more fun to talk about.
Yeah, hopefully.
The worst mirage in the world this season. The
problem is you've reached a point where the wins even feel annoying. Because they're going to go out and they're going to beat the Panthers, and you're going to be like, this was a bad thing.
Oh, yeah, they just moved down 3 spots in the draft order.
Right. And this is why the Saints have not drafted in the top 10 since, 2005?
Anyway. They'll make sure they're out of it, and then they'll start winning.
Trending in the right direction, man.
Woohoo! Well, right, what now? 4 straight games by losing by double digits. Not pretty. Not a good look.
It's not. But all right, that's it. We're done. Cut it off.
All right.
Cut it off. Where's the producer? Shut it down. Oh, wait, that's me. Who dat? Go Saints.
Later, folks. Be easy.
Clicking the button right now. Bye.